So this video is going to be about my comments and my opinion about the two matches that were done yesterday at the Extreme Rules pay-per-view or event that WWE hosted from the Performance Center. The two matches that I'm going to be talking about are the Eye for an Eye match that involved Rey Mysterio Jr. and Seth Rollins, and the Wyatt Swamp Fight that involved Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman. Now, I'm not going to be reviewing the whole pay per view and all that kind of stuff. There was it was not the best pay per view that I have ever seen. Um, it's just my opinion as a wrestler and what I think of the match. Um, so this is my opinion only. People are going to disagree. We're going to have different opinions. Personally, I feel like the stipulations for those matches was way over the top. I the one of Seth Rollins and Rey Mysterio, the the match was okay to watch. There were some interesting moments, but at the same time, the stipulation that to win you had to take your opponent eye out. That was way too much. That is something that, like, why you have to go that far for a stipulation to be won, and then I have to question. Okay, so how are you going to do that? I understand that we sometimes become magicians in wrestling because we keep certain things hidden. So I'm kind of like thinking, okay, so at one point somehow the referee is going to give somebody to them or something like that, and then they're going to like put in the eye and they're going to pretend it's an eyeball, and that's exactly what happened in the match. And it was not with us one, it was with Rey Mysterio. I feel like given that this was a feud match, that Rey Mysterio should have been on top, but I'm not the writer and I'm not the one who makes the decision in WWE. So Rey Mysterio was the one that ended up losing the match. Which might lead to another match, probably between Seth Rollins and Rey Mysterio, but who knows? Um, I would totally love to see that, but please, no more of a stipulation like this one of eye for an eye. That was way over the top. And hopefully, I just hope that we don't get to see this on the indie scene. Because honestly, seriously, if somebody book you for a wrestling match of an eye for an eye, don't do it. No, don't do it. It can be very dangerous. And so no, don't do that. That is just. I think WWE has given indie promotions a type of match that should be avoided at all costs at the independent circuit, even at the higher levels. No, that match should not have been done. I mean, I would have been happy seeing like a first blood match. That would have been okay too. That would be much better. That's something easily doable. And first blood. That's an interesting type of match. It's still violent. It's still gruesome, but it's whoever starts bleeding first. That's the one that loses the match. So that would have been a better stipulation, in my opinion, but that's just me. Um, I still feel that it has some good moments, but again, I just feel the risk factor, and then because how you do the special effect live, that didn't come out very good. Her Mysterio lost, but they never showed the full extent of that. I think if they would have been more gory and like kayfabe, and you said like it was because we wanted to be gory, so they could have had a little bit more of like do that in a way that you could pull out like a having done stage combat, so you could pull out like a sponge with a little bit of like red liquid in there and the eye, and he could pull out the Heffercraft, giving him that, and he would pass that to his eye, and then like see a little bit of blood coming out and all that kind of stuff. That would have been very gory and more graphic. But they didn't do that, so I felt like it fell short on what was expected. And like I said, honestly, I felt like the stipulation that was way too much. They should haven't done that. I would have preferred to see a different kind of stipulation, but that's just me. And if anybody enjoyed the match, that's okay too. You can have that opinion. That's fine. I just felt like that stipulation was unnecessary. It went way over the top to a level that I had never seen in wrestling before. Now, switching gears, let's talk about the. I'm going to talk about the Wyatt Swamp Fight. I was expecting Swamp Thing with a superhero in DC to pop up out of nowhere, but that never happened, unfortunately. So my expectations were shattered in there. I have loved to see that, but did not happen, unfortunately. Um, in any case, I feel like with this type of match, so when look at the well, I like the cinematic matches. Let me put it that way because it gives you a different type of setting. It gives you a different kind of story that you can tell. It gives you more options of what you can do. Like for example, what they did in this match, when Bray Wyatt kind of like saw himself wearing the black sheep mask. So that was very interesting. And if this was done in the wrestling ring, you could not have that done unless you added special effects. So having this be a cinematic match, you can easily do that. So that was okay. And knowing that WWE had played with like matches like The Undertaker versus Undertaker before, so it kind of like makes sense that they were going to pull something like that. So I was not too angry at that. It was kind of surprising just to see that, but still, still the main point for me was like the stipulation. Like wrestling fans haven't been able to see the whole stipulations of matches. We are not expected to know how the match, what are the rules of the match, unless WWE tells you the rules. So, for example, comparing this match to the one that The Undertaker did at WrestleMania with AJ Styles, it was inferred at one point in the match that the way to win was to bury your opponent alive in the Undertaker match. But that was never stated in the beginning of the match. And that could have created some confusion to people as to how you know who wins. So the same problem happens in this match because nothing was mentioned as to, okay, so how do we know who wins and who loses, you know? Especially if the championship is on the line. And if the championship is on the line, you need to give a clear way for the fan to know who won or who lost. And I felt that match had that problem. So, for example, if the stipulation was like, so the winner is going to be whoever throw the opponent in the swamp, and if they don't come out. So that could have been a great stipulation, considering that in the end you had the Finn coming out. So at that point, then the fans can say like, "Oh, Bray Wyatt couldn't come out of the swamp soon, so he lost the match," and yada yada. Instead, now we're left like, "Oh, so does that mean that Bray Wyatt won and he won the title back?" So that's the question that we have. So it should have been more clear the stipulation as to who win or lose the match. And that's a problem that I have with that match. Not necessarily with a type of match that was made, which was a Hollywood style match, and I didn't have too much trouble with that. Although I would have preferred to see more action in terms of the fight. There was not too much fight, but it was a lot of like it seems like it was a lot of like psychological stuff of Bray Wyatt messing up with Braun Strowman's mind, especially because they had history together. So it makes sense. But like, if people are not paying attention to some of the promos that were happening before, if you are a new viewer, you are not going to understand what they did. And I feel that that could have left some fans disappointed because they're going to feel lost because they don't understand the whole backstory that was between Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman for that match. So I feel like that was a negative point in that match. So because of that, I wasn't too happy with that match in the end, and it left me confused. Even for me, I was like, okay, so who won the match? So I feel like if WWE plans to do more cinematic matches, which I'm not opposed to that because that just makes it more interesting and creates a different dynamic, and you don't have to be in the ring all the time. If you're going to do more cinematic matches, you may need to come up with the objective of that match. Like, and by objective, I mean, what's the stipulation? How we're going to tell the viewer who is going to be the winner and the loser of that match based on the type of match that it is, you know? Like I said, the Undertaker match that he had in WrestleMania, which was a Boneyard match, it was inferred that the winner was going to be whoever buries his opponent alive. So at that point, it turned out to be that the Boneyard match is just another buried alive match, pretty much. So that became clear to follow. So we knew that when AJ Styles took the tombstone, the Undertaker put it in the graveyard and put the soil on top of him. That was it. That match was over, and the Undertaker won. But in this case scenario, that was not clear. And if it was more clear, I think it would have been a more enjoyable match, because then we'll be waiting for that final moment to see who won the match, instead of wondering what the hell just happened and whether Braun Strowman is still the champion, or is it Bray Wyatt who won the match. Um, we'll see how that play out, but that's just my comments about those two matches. So we'll see how what WWE does, but I feel like this pay per view was relatively weak with those two matches, and the other matches were okay, but these two matches were weak. Not necessarily weak in the sense of like it was weak, because Rey Mysterio and Seth Rollins has some good moments in it, but it was just weak in the terms of the stipulation of the match and the final results. But that's just my opinion, and if anybody has a different opinion, you're welcome to comment. I just wish that from now on WWE has a more clear path of how to do the cinematic matches, thinking about the objective and how they're going to present and let the viewer know how the match, who the loser is, the winner is going to be determined. Anyway, that's all I got, and peace out.